Welcome back to the Christianity and Business Podcast, an initiative of the RTW Dunham College of Business at Houston Baptist University. I'm your host, Darren Shear, and this is the show that helps Christian business leaders to integrate biblical values into business. On this episode, we're joined by Bob Schlegel. Bob was raised on a small farm in rural Ontario. Resources were limited, but his loving parents were always quick to share with others in need. Despite at least 2 near-death experiences as a child, including a broken neck and being mauled by 2 Great Danes, he proved to be a natural-born entrepreneur at a young age. He excelled at mathematics and graduated from Wilfrid Laurier, I assume that's how you pronounce it,
pretty good.
University with a bachelor's in economics, and later became a CPA and married his high school sweetheart and registered nurse, Myrna. And together they launched their first business, a chain of 15 high-end senior living centers in Texas. In 1980, with a partner, you launched Pavestone, the Pavestone Company, a manufacturer of concrete landscape products, which struggled in the late 80s due to a recession, but rebounded and became the nation's leading supplier of concrete landscaping products for big box and commercial customers. The Schlegels sold both of those businesses for substantial profits, and today are involved in a myriad of new enterprises and philanthropic endeavors. Their 4 entrepreneurial children are also involved in some of those businesses as well as their own. And he's the author of the new book, Angels and Entrepreneurs, a lifestyle formula for starting your own business and riding the roller coaster of entrepreneurship. Bob, welcome to the Christianity and Business Podcast.
Thank you, Darren. Great to be here.
Bob, when did you first realize God wanted to be involved in your work and business?
Well, I think from the very beginning of as a little kid, and my wife as well. Actually, my mother taught my wife when she was 5 years old. Taught her in summer Bible school in our little Mennonite church. So, and we didn't start dating for another 15 years after that or so, and eventually got married, and we're actually married 50 years. This year. So,
congratulations.
Worked out pretty good so far.
Wow. And so how did you start to see God at work in your work and business?
I think I've always, as a little kid, like you mentioned, I broke my neck when I was 5, started my one-room schoolhouse with a broken body cast on. And then the Great Danes attacked me, and a little bit after that, our house actually burned down. My brother and my sister and I were home by ourselves. And I thought I was going to be a fireman, tried to put the fire out, and my brother ended up dragging me out of the house. So I knew that, and then just different things after that. So I think I've always had a guardian angel, at least I think in my life. And of course, going to Bible school and summer school, and for years, you just become acquainted very much with that. And as I got to Texas, we moved here in 80, 85. Started going to the Prestonwood Baptist Church was a real nice church in North Dallas here. And the pastor was very excellent speaker. And his sermons were kind of like motivational speeches, like hearing Napoleon Hill or Norman Vincent Peale speak on the power of positive thinking and that sort of thing, and thought versus action. And one of the scriptures that sticks with me so much is just the basic one that everybody knows: ask it will be given unto you, seek and you shall find, and knock, the door will be opened. I mean, for me as a kid, trying to open doors with bankers or sales or whatever you're doing, that scripture is get up, get off your butt and get going and start knocking on doors and seeking and asking, and that motivated me a lot. It was pretty important in my life. And the whole thought versus action, the Bible quotes in Proverbs, in all toil there's profit, but mere talk tends only to poverty. So there's it's that sort of thought and action. People talk about doing a lot of things or think about doing a lot of things, but don't take the action to get them done. So I think it's those biblical scriptures that I always liked and thought about. So I think really motivated me to get out and start doing things.
Yeah. And so your book is titled Angels and Entrepreneurs, a lifestyle formula for starting your own business and riding the roller coaster of entrepreneurship. And it's really been a roller coaster for you. You've had some kind of dark times, really dark times in business. Can you kind of take us to some of those, or maybe one of those low points?
Sure. A lot of them. I've had a lot of them. I was actually at a little talk this morning, and you really I've made a lot of mistakes about life, and probably more than success, but more than your successful events. I've had, 3 or 4 good businesses and a couple of several, or at least half a dozen of not so good businesses. Half the businesses started these days fail, don't make it to 5 years. So, and all the businesses that are successful, go through all kinds of roller coasters and ups and downs. And I didn't really think it was a roller coaster at the time, but when my editor came out with that roller coaster thing for the book after I'd written it, and that, it really was a roller coaster. So, but it's all kinds of, I think failure, you need that, you're going to have a lot of failure. I look at fail as an acronym, the FAIL, as a first attempt at learning, because that's, you learn more from your experiences and your trouble times and your bad ideas, bad investments. You learn a whole lot more from that than you do some of the good ones sometimes, because the bad ones you remember, some of the good ones you take for granted and just go on with the next one. But the whole thing's a learning process. I'm a big believer in, I have a PEP for a PEP acronym that I like to use. First P is for persistence. The next one, the E is for education and experience. And the next P is for passion and partners. And you have to be passionate about what you do and love what you do. And with you feel good about religion and believing in God, I think gives that motivation, that love for what you're doing, and really gets you up in the morning, reason to get up in the morning and really, wake up in the morning, get back to work as fast as you can, kind of thing.
Yeah. Can you take this to maybe back in the 80s, or is there a particular story that you could share when you were in a particularly low point on that roller coaster journey and how you responded?
Sure. In December of 83, I was, my dad had a heart attack, was in the hospital, and for about 3 months before he passed away. And I just right around Christmas time, I had to make a quick trip to Houston to close on some real estate at a healthcare center. And on the way to I stopped to see him at the hospital. On the way to the airport, it was a blizzard came up, and the truck crossed the interstate and hit me head on, and I was unconscious for about a week. And so I think the angel, your guardian angel, is with you during those times. And my dad passed away when I was unconscious, and we just it's very troubling, very terrible time. My wife had a terrible time, and it's just one of those things that happens in life, and you rely on God to get you through it.
Yeah. And how about it specifically in business, a low point in business and how you bounce back?
Sure. In the Great Recession, you all remember 08, 09, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, that whole period was pretty ugly for a lot of businesses. And mine was no exception. At Pavestone, we had some covenants, and a lot of big businesses, we had the EBITDA coverages and debt service coverages, that sort of thing in business. And this is what everybody, a lot of people, including me, busted all their covenants. And when your covenants, you break your covenants, and the bank can call the loan, and all kinds of nasty things can happen. So during that period, we fought off, and we had an offer to sell the company at one point, and the Federal Trade Commission ended up, after a year of studying the deal, blocked it on the Hart-Scott-Rodino competition thing they have. And that sort of killed the deal. It made it much worse for us, because as sales were going down, or the economy was going down and down. Our prices were going down and down, and it just got a very nasty time to struggle through that. So we just fight your way through it, and we took some equity partners, and you work your way out of it and do what you have to do at the time. But it's very discouraging, and you need a lot of angels just around you. I have friends. The angels appeared from friends that I knew, financial experts and that sort of thing, would come and they'd sit in my office for weeks sometimes, just helping me through, troubled times and negotiating and trying to work things out into a better deal.
Yeah. Can you tell me more about, so the book is Angels and Entrepreneurs, and I hear you talking about guardian angels a lot. So how does how do you understand angelic activity theologically?
I've never seen an angel, but I've certainly felt their power and their action and just if you work hard and you do the right things, I think angels help you or steer you or guide you and have you make proper decisions and just things much more than coincidences. Good things happen and sometimes at the very last minute in perfect timing. Event somebody calls you or some event happens or I think there's some power that makes that happen.
Yeah.
Once the particular thing we had partners at a company and they had sold their company unexpected to anybody and been made all the papers and really could have put us in a terrible jam with debt coming due and that sort of thing. And I think like it was 2 hours later after it hit the press. And but 2 hours after it hit the press, I got a call from an old friend I'd made over the years who was interested in investing and buying the company. So it's just it's amazing how things like that fall into place. It's too good to be coincidental, I think, in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, angels are one of the most just underappreciated gifts that God has given to believers. I think just based on what church we grew up in, maybe if you grew up Catholic, you tend to have more of a, I guess you give more attention to angels. And then if you come from other traditions, maybe it even almost sounds heretical or something like that. It's like, we'll talk about the Holy Spirit. We're not going to talk about angelic activity, but Billy Graham wrote a book about angels and angelic activity. And I mean, they're with us, they're for us. I mean, God has given them to us to help serve us in business and everything, every aspect of life, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think the power of prayer and the positive thinking with Norman Vincent Peale, his scripture was what they want. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ, which strengthened me. It's a lot like angels in my mind. But they're all there and all working together. So you need to, it all works,
Yeah. And you quoted the verse about asking, seeking, and knocking. Mm-hmm. Can you think of a time in your business career where you felt a little discouraged and the Lord encouraged you with that verse and you just really started to ask, seek, and knock? What did that look like for you?
Oh, for sure. I think that's Matthew 7:7. For sure, it motivated me to, you got a lot of doors slammed in your face when you're doing anything, starting a business or selling something or buying something. You just have to take more and more action. The other scripture of that is the Proverbs, lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. Proverbs 10:4. And so it's, I think those are all very motivational, very true. Even just for a layman who's not a religious person, is just great themes to live by.
What does that look like specifically in your business career, and maybe a specific example?
Well, I think over the years, you think of projects and different businesses you could start and do something, and you think about it, but you don't take the action, the thought, and sometimes you see a business start up and say, "Oh, I thought of doing that." What? Just open a restaurant or something, and all of a sudden there's a restaurant, and the corner you thought you'd make a good restaurant. But if you don't take the action, you lose out. And so it's the action guys that prosper, in my mind.
Yeah. How did you get into the concrete business? I mean, you obviously did extremely well there. And that's, I mean, if you go into a typical MBA class today and ask them what kind of businesses they want to start, they want to do some kind of robotics business or social media company or something they're going to feel like really looks cool, sounds cool. Concrete is probably not at the top of a lot of their lists, and yet it's such a valuable service. How did you end up getting into that?
But for sure, one thing that motivated me a lot was during some MBA courses I was taking. The prof said, well, the way to really get ahead and prosper in America is to, work our way up a Fortune 500 company. The Fortune 500 CEOs make a lot of money and get stock options and all that kind of thing. That how many Fortune 500 people are there? And there's 500. So my chances of being a national NHL hockey player, a baseball player, a football player are better than being the Fortune 500.
Really good point.
So it's so that's where I got pushed over to entrepreneurs. My dad was a best entrepreneur, equipment dealer, and farmer, and all the other things. But so that motivated me in that direction. But then I had a partner who was an engineer from Canada. We came down to business in Dallas, and we realized that everything's very well landscaped in Texas, and a lot of Mediterranean brick arches, and that sort of thing. But there was no paving stones, and because we were our little town in Canada was paving stones were actually invented in Germany after the war, and high compressed concrete. So they were at our little German community in Canada. We had them. I grew up with them. So we brought them to Texas, which was fun to start up. In the first 4 or 5 years were fun as we grew slowly, and started making a little bit of money. And then another this RTC SNL crisis. You're too young to remember that, but in the late 80s, 86 everybody's the best year, and 87 is everybody's worst year. The economy just took a switch. So my partner left, and we struggled to keep the company running. And so it took me, started the company in 1980. In 1994, 14 years later, we were at $10 million in sales, which is pretty good, and finally breaking even and making a little bit of money. But it took us 14 years to $10 million. And then that's when things start to act, the thought and action comes into place, and you do things to grow your company quicker. And 5 years later, 1999, I guess it was, we were at hit $100 million. And then every 3 years, we doubled $200 million and $300 million and $400 million. So we got to $400 million after that. But during the years in the middle, after my partner left until 5-6 years there, were pretty ugly and pretty nasty, and weren't much fun getting it done. But it's actually persevering and hanging through it and not giving up was, we had to do that to be successful. And that's what happens in entrepreneurship.
That's right. And you share the journey in your book, Angels and Entrepreneurs. Do you want to give another plug for the book and let people know why they ought to get it?
Well, sure. I think I really did it as to inspire my grandkids. I'm too late to teach my kids much, but my grandkids, I think I can still influence them a little bit. My great grandkids and the grandkids to come. So keep them inspired, and get the theory is the PEP theory, persistence, education, entrepreneurship, and passion about what you're doing, and really setting goals and setting a vision and growing that company as fast as you can. And everybody wins. Your employees win, your customers win, your family wins, and it's hopefully you can give you a lot of resources to do other great things with what you do in your life and want to contribute to.
And BobSchlegel.com is the website, BobSchlegel author.com. Anything else you want to say about where people ought to go to connect?
Well, listen, Amazon is sells everything. They got the book in soft hardcover. It's been first couple of weeks. It was a Wall Street Journal bestseller, so that was kind of fun. And we'd love to hopefully inspire more, and we'd love to do it for students and kids. And my best compliment I ever get is, and I've received it several times, that Bob, I just read the book, and I just ordered 10 more for each of my kids and grandkids. So it's kind of a fun experience. So I would encourage you to get a copy, and if you have a lot of grandkids, get them more.
Yeah. And Chuck Norris wrote a nice endorsement for the book.
Yeah, we've been friends with Chuck and Gina for several years, and he wrote a great endorsement. I really thank him for that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, everybody. The book is Angels and Entrepreneurs by Bob Schlegel. Bob, what's one action you want people to take as a result of what they've heard today?
Probably the biggest thing is get an education. PEP, middle B in PEP is education. An education raise the tide for all boats, and rising tide raises all boats, as you know. So I think the more education you can get, from that one-room schoolhouse to college. At one point, I wanted to quit school after grade 10 and become a mechanic and a grease monkey in a garage. And my mother would not hear about it. I still remember her telling me, "You're not quitting school. You're going to school." And so I finished high school, went to college, and got a CPA. And because of her insistence and her determination, it happened. And I think I'm the first generation, my sister, brother, and I, first generation to go to high school, because back in the early days, everybody's staying home and working in the farm. So it's nothing wrong with that, but the more education you have, and the rising tide is just education is the greatest thing you can acquire, because nobody can take it away from you. That's my biggest message. If you get nothing else but getting a great education for your kids and grandkids, that's what it's all about.
Excellent. And this book has a lot of great education as well for entrepreneurs. Everybody go check it out. Bob, thank you for sharing your wisdom and some of your journey with us today. We're better for it.
Thank you, Darren. My pleasure.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode. And if so, we would greatly appreciate it if you would leave us a quick rating and review for the Christianity in Business podcast on iTunes. You can get more information about HBU's Center for Christianity in Business at christianityinbusiness.com. Thanks for listening, and remember to keep integrating biblical values into your business.